These are the contents of today's video session. So here we will be discussing about the life cycling using prototyping, which has 6 phases inside it. So based on this prototyping model, we have 4 different models which is developed, namely rapid throwaway, evolutionary, incremental, and then extreme prototyping. So we'll be discussing one after another in detail. So as I've already said you, the life cycling using prototyping model have 6 different phases. It is depicted in this picture. So this starts with the requirement phase. As we already know, we will be gathering the requirement from the client side. After this is done, immediately we'll be following with a very quick design. After this is done, here we'll be building a prototype. So a prototype is a simple working model of the final software which is to be developed. So here, when you went to some, shopping malls or some temples, you would have seen some prototype of it which is kept at the entrance of the particular building. So a prototype is like a model structure which is going to depict what will be the look-like feel of the complete software after the final development. So by means of the prototype, the user can visually see, or he or she can interact with the particular software to understand how it will look like after its completion. So that is called as prototype. So initially, after quick design is done, we will be building the prototype. After the prototype is completed, a quick user evaluation is done. So what is the meaning of user? So remember, the name is called as user evaluation. So we will be calling the client side and we'll be asking the client side to interact with the particular prototype and check whether all his requirements are satisfying. If that is not satisfying, we'll be entering into something called as refining the prototype. So we'll be changing the prototype, that is model, and again we'll be going for user evaluation. So this will be done until all the requirements are completely satisfied. So when the requirements are totally satisfied, then only after the prototype is freezed, then only we'll be starting with the implementation and finally maintenance phase. So these are the 6 different phases which is present in the life cycle using prototyping method. The first step goes with requirement gathering and analysis. So the requirements of the system are defined in detail here. The final users of the system will be called and they will be interviewed to know what is the expectation from the corresponding system. So as like previous development models, requirement gathering is to get the user requirements from the client or the end user side. Next step is called as quick design. So this is also called as preliminary design. So here this is again a very simple design which is going to get the major requirements from the end system. So we cannot call this as a complete design. Why? Because after the quick design is done, we will be having a small evaluation, that is prototype building, a small evaluation. Only then in the sequence of the phases will be again going for multiple sittings for the requirements gathering phase, and then only our complete system will be said to be built. So the next phase is called as prototype building. So here an actual prototype, so the definition of prototype is, it is a small working model of the required system. So the actual prototype is designed based on the information which is gathered from the quick design. After the prototype is completed, we will be going for the initial user evaluation. So such proposed prototype is presented to the client side or the end user side for the initial evaluation. The strength and the weakness of the working model will be identified. So based on the weakness, based on the comments and suggestions, again the particular prototype will be redesigned in the next coming phases. So here we will be in the step 5, we will be refining the prototype. So we will be refining the prototype according to the user's feedback and suggestions which is obtained in the previous phase. So these steps, that is user evaluation and refining prototype, that is step 4 and 5, will be repeated until all the requirements are specified by the user is met in the prototype. So the prototype has to satisfy all the user requirements which is given by the end user or the client side. So once a user is satisfied with the developed prototype, the final system development will be done, which is based on the approved final prototype only. The next step is called as implementation the product and then maintenance of it. So after development, then the system is thoroughly tested, the testing phase will be happen, and then the deployment is done into the production. So meaning of deployment is launching the particular software in the client side. So in the client office, there will be various missions, so we will be launching the particular product in the client side and we'll be checking whether it is working in the client office or not. So the system undergoes routine maintenance. So after launching the product, after deployment, we are in need to go to the routine maintenance phase for minimizing the downtime and prevent large scale failures. So this maintenance is always a lifelong phase. So based on this prototyping methods, we have four common models arising. So first one is called as rapid throwaway prototype. Next is evolutionary prototype. So these two are very commonly used to prototyping. Apart from it, we also have incremental and also extreme prototyping. The first type of methodology is called as rapid throwaway prototype. So this is mainly based on preliminary requirement. So as the name says, this is used to quickly develop the particular requirement into a prototype and then immediately show to the client visually. So based on the customer's feedback, the prototype is again created until the requirement is baseline. So imagine I'm having a prototype as called as version 1. Based on this particular prototype developed, the customer will be called for an evaluation. If the customer is not satisfied with certain requirement, this prototype is totally discarded. And then again, by using the next set of requirement, the prototype version 2 will be created. Again, client will be called. Only if the client is satisfied with this, the prototype is approved and it is used for the next implementation phase. If the customer is not satisfied, again the particular prototype is discarded. So each previous versions of the prototype will be discarded and then it will not be a part of the ultimately accepted prototype. Then and there it will be discarded. This technique is useful for exploring ideas and getting instant feedback for the customer requirements. The next type of model is called as evolutionary prototype. This is opposite to that of the previous rapid throwaway prototype. So here in this model, the prototype is developed in an incrementally and refined based on the customer's feedback until it is finally accepted. So apart from the previous rapid throwaway prototype, this evolutionary prototype will not be discarded. So if there is any errors in version 1, the particular software is refined and the particular version 1 is simply used again to develop the version 2. So we will not discard actually. The previous versions are considered in order to develop the new particular prototype. So developing a prototype from scratch will be done through a rapid throwaway. So that is not happening over here. So this will be always frustrating and time consuming. But here this evolutionary prototype in this model is helpful for the project with various aspects such as whenever we have new technology which is not well understood by the end users. So in this case, always a client will not be satisfied with the multiple versions of the prototype. So each and every time when we discard it, it is totally a time-consuming process. Similarly, complex softwares can also be developed by using evolutionary prototyping. So where we develop, we will be dividing the complex prototype into multiple smaller versions and we will be developing each and every one separately. And also in cases where the requirement is not always stable, that is when the client is always changing their requirement, then also and is not understood properly in the initial stage. In such cases also it is better to use evolutionary prototyping. So this picture clearly says the difference between the two different types of rapid throwaway and evolutionary prototyping. So initial set of requirements will be obtained and first we will be following with a quick design. After this, we will be going for developing the prototype and we will be calling the customer for initial evaluation. If there is requirement or not satisfied, we can go in this fashion, or otherwise we will be going for checking the worthiness of this particular prototype. If it is accepted, then if we refine it and then we will be using this for the testing the final product, and we can go for delivery and maintenance under evolutionary prototyping. But if the prototyping is not accepted, initially we will be discarding the prototype. And then we will be going for reading the first one, that is SRS, Software Requirement Specification. We design again, we implement it, test it, we deliver and maintain, and then and there if the particular prototype is not satisfied, then we will be starting with discarding and then following the other steps. So this is called as rapid throwaway prototyping. The next type of model is called as incremental prototyping. As the name says, here we are going to develop the prototyping in an incremental fashion. So here we will be first initially the final product, that is estimated product, is reduced into different small prototypes. So small modules will be developed that is by dividing the major requirements of the particular software. So here I may divide into 3 different models. Then what I will be doing in the sense, I am going to develop the first particular requirement into a prototype, that is first prototype. This will be followed for second prototype and then third prototype. And finally, the different prototypes are merged together. So these 3 things will be merged together to form the complete prototype of the particular product. So first we'll be dividing into various small prototypes and then go for testing individually. After everything is fine, we'll be going for the final verified prototype which is working fine. So this is called as incremental prototype. And this method is used to reduce the feedback time between user and the application development team. The last type of prototyping is called as extreme prototyping. This is mainly used for web-based development applications. So it consists of three major phases, namely first basic prototype building, next how to stimulate the data process, and third is to how to handle the services. So in basic prototyping, we'll be doing the same thing by means of HTML format. We'll not go for the actual software to use it. We'll be defining just by using HTML web pages. And then the data, to check whether the data is flowing correct or not in the particular prototype, we'll be using some various prototype servicing layers. And then the services are implemented and then finally integrated to form the final prototype. So such particular, different web pages, whichever we have created in the first stage will be integrated together to form the final product. So such thing is called as extreme prototyping. So by this we come to the end of this video session. So here we have discussed about prototyping model where we have 6 different phases, starting with requirement gathering, quick design, building a prototype, evaluation, and then followed by refining the prototype. So once everything is fine, we'll be going for implementing the product and then maintenance. So the arrangement of such particular prototyping based model will be done is done in 4 different models. One is called as rapid throwaway, evolutionary, incremental, and extreme prototyping. The contents of this particular video is referred in the book cited here. Thank you for your patient listening.